What's up, y'all? It's your girl, Cornelia, back with another episode of Black News, a podcast where we break down current events, hot topics, and local stories involving Black people. Now let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. What a week. What a week it has been. And welcome back. Hey, y'all. Black News Podcast, another episode. As mentioned in the intro, I'm Cornelia. Hi. If you're returning, if you brand new, what it is, what's up? Ba 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 ba. It's a lot going on this week. I'm gonna jump right into it. It has been hectic than a mug on social media. Now, it may not be hectic for a lot of you. If you're not chronically online like me, you probably don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Okay. And also, unless you are a part of a specific group that participates in one of these conversations, this probably don't even touch you or have an effect on you, or just maybe not even noticeable. But from a Black culture standpoint, it has been very lively. Right? Let's start right at the top with Black Panther 3 announcements. Y'all know I'm tapped in everything Ryan Coogler got going on. Hey, man, I'm tapped in. I'm also, though, and I will say this doesn't apply as much recently, but historically, I am a fan of Marvel movies and shows. I'm not a comic book person. Okay. I don't know what happened in the comics. People like, well, in the comics, I don't know what happened in them. But I have done my best up until a certain point to keep abreast on what goes on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. When it's a good movie coming out, Spider-Man coming out this weekend, I'm going to see Spider-Man. I am tapped in. So, with Black Panther being one of my favorite franchises or favorite branches, if you will, within the Marvel franchise, I'm going to I'm going to know what's up. I want to know what's up. So, what we already knew, right? We knew Ryan Coogler was on board to direct the third installment of the Black Panther franchise, right? Black Panther 3. We previously had Black Panther, the first one. Then we had Wakanda Forever. Now it's the third one. We also knew because he spilled the beans. Denzel Washington is allegedly, reportedly supposed to be in this third one. We knew that. We also knew that, per Ryan Coogler, he was going to shift focus to Black Panther 3, writing the movie, figuring out what's what after he wrapped up what he was got going on with the X-Files reboot, the television show. That they done shooting that has been shot. Reports are saying that they are in conversations with Hulu about if it's going to be picked up for a full season order, but the focus has officially been shifted. We also knew, based on the movie, that it left off with the passing of T'Challa, which was played by the late great Chadwick Boseman. Y'all know how I feel about the conversation about recasting. I'm glad they did not recast. Maybe sometime last year or maybe this year, who knows? I feel like I've talked about this a few times. I have talked about, from a studio perspective, what it takes for someone to be cast in a role like this in the timeline that involves, which could lead to also why I'm glad they didn't try to recast this in real time, because Ryan Coogler had to write a completely new movie. It was the pandemic. They was dealing with COVID guidelines that changed the production completely. You was gonna have to cast, do multiple rounds of auditions, chemistry tests, studio callbacks, producer callback, network callback, contract negotiation, get the person buff, had them learn the accent and karate in enough time to be able to be on set within less than year's time, in the costume of they dead friend. That's unrealistic. So I'm glad they did not recast. What they then did, they moved Shuri's character, played by Letitia Wright, into the Black Panther position. And according to the comic book nurse, they said that happened in one version of the comics. Okay. They then revealed at the end of the movie, and this is not a spoiler alert, this movie been out for 3, 4, 5 years, okay, that Lupita's character and T'Challa had a son. His name was and is T'Challa. His Haitian name, because they're raising him in Haiti, is Toussaint. But his actual name is T'Challa. So they did not do a recast of Black Panther Chadwick's character, but there is a new T'Challa, which opens up possibilities to be able to do everything y'all wanted with the character based on the comic books with T'Challa. Okay? So we know all of those about Black Panther. Well, San Diego Comic-Con was this past week. And we know from years past, especially when it comes to Marvel or any big brand show or movie that is running adjacent to the Comic-Con brand, they make huge announcements. Ryan Coogler done showed up. Okay. You know, Ryan pull up, they gonna have some talk about, which I feel like people kind of expected because this will be the time to announce Black Panther 3. Well, he gets on stage with Kevin Feige, head of Marvel. He gets on with Winston Duke and Letitia Wright. He announced that one, Black Panther is going to be shot in film. Two, it is going to be released in December 2028. Which sidebar, child, are we even gonna have a country in 2028? Everybody all talking about the movie, baby. Are we even gonna be in this? The states gonna be the states, huh? But also, again, shot in film, which means it's going to be a beautifully shot movie. And he also announced that they have cast the character of T'Challa, Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman's characters, T'Challa and Lupita's son, Mr. David Johnson. Crowd goes crazy, immediately hits the streets, social media going crazy, everybody talking. One of my homeboys hit me up and sent me the clip. I immediately said, I am really feeling this. Okay. I'm really feeling this casting. And I'm going to tell y'all why. And we're going to talk about a bunch of other things. One, there was a lot of rumors about Damson Idris being the person. Then it was Aldous Hodge. Then somebody said Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, but then he was Wonder Man. Somebody even said the grown Idris Elba. People at one point they was naming all kind of people who should be Black Panther. But the one that people stuck with was Damson Idris. Personally, I don't know why. And I've been asking this on social media for this, last couple of days. Where did this come from? Ryan Coogler never confirmed this. Kevin Feige never said it. Disney never said it. Nobody ever said that Damson Idris was going to be the next Black Panther. So why were people so stuck on this? And I say that because people seem to be disappointed. There's a group of people disappointed that it's not Damson Idris, which it baffles me. And it also makes me think some of us going crazy. And I'm not talking about me in this instance, because if none of the people who are at the forefront of this movie have confirmed this, somebody said there was some fan art released that like kind of looked like Damson. If they don't know, you don't know where the fan art came from. It could just been some random guy or girl releasing fan art. If Damson himself, if there was nothing in the rack, nothing came out that said he was the casting, where did y'all get so connected and attached to the idea of it being Damson Idris? That is crazy. All it took was somebody making up some fan art for y'all to be like, yeah, it's him. Why is it so easy for people to believe something that's not true? Why is it so easy for people to believe something that's not true? Why was it so easy for y'all to believe that? Two, Damson Idris is going to be in The Children of Blood and Bone that is coming out in January. Another African mythology, if you will, leaning movie produced, or not produced, directed by the legendary Gina Prince Bythewood. So even if he was considered, not to say this was going to be a hindrance, but he going to be in 2 African movies like that. And the Children of Blood and Bone got the potential to have a 3-movie arc. So, yeah, okay. But with that, simultaneously, you have people who were also, like me, excited about David Johnson. Now, so a lot of people are like, who is this guy? I have not watched the movies that he has been in. I have heard about the movies he's been in. Alien, The Long Walk, and Rye Lane are the 3 that people are naming. One, I ain't watched Long Walk because people said it's tragic and there's a lot going on, baby, and I don't feel like being emotional. I don't watch Alien like that, so I ain't checked it out. So my excitement stems from, and one of the reasons I'm not upset that it wasn't Damson Idris. The lift, the emotional lift, even publicly, socially, and the expectation that is put on the role of Black Panther is something that only a special kind of person can carry. It is also, and I'm going to assume this, easier if you are carrying it as someone who is coming in the industry who doesn't have a bunch of baggage or isn't very notable. And I say that because a lot of y'all who are mad about it not being Damson were simultaneously mad about the British actor being picked, which we'll get into. And that's a lot because a lot of y'all think Damson is Franklin Saint from South Central Los Angeles. But I'm gonna put a pin in that. Because we don't know who David Johnson is. There's a clean slate, endless possibilities. Also, per reports talking, about Ryan and the castmates who met him, there's a humbleness about him, and I've been seeing some interviews float around with him. He seems very Chadwick coded in a great way. Not to say the person stepping into this should mimic Chadwick Boseman, but I can see how Ryan Coogler looked at this person, this young man, and thought he is capable of doing and handling all of those things while also being a great actor. Because, baby, you got to act down in this role and pick up the accent. So I was excited. I'm all for a new person, baby. It ain't got to be out as hot and like, come on. But then people were like, they talking about the whole British actor thing. Y'all know there's been a long-standing conversation about British actors taking all the roles, and people are saying, why are they taking all the American roles, being not American actors? Let me point this out. Wakanda is not a real place. Okay? Wakanda is not real. Yes, American artists created the character of Black Panther in the world. However, it is based in a fictional place. I saw somebody on social media be delusional talking about some Wakanda is actually in America. Shut up. Y'all be thinking, and I y'all Black News listeners, people be thinking, somebody said something like, y'all, the problem is y'all think Wakanda was supposed to be in Memphis. And it ain't. It's in Africa. So in this case, to me, it does not matter if it is a British actor or not, especially for people who's rooting for Damson. That's why I said, I think y'all think Damson is from South Central LA because y'all think he Franklin Saint. But let me also point this out quickly. And I don't know David's background, right? His cultural background. However, a lot of British Black people have a closer connection to their actual African heritage than Black Americans do, because a lot of Black British people are first or second generation African. Chadwick, who played the role, was likely not first or second generation African. So technically, it's a possibility that David is more African than an American actor who could have played the role. Again, I'm just throwing it out there. I don't really care, but I'm throwing it out there for the people who brought that part up. But I'm so sorry to break the news. Y'all not gonna be able to find no foundational Black Wakandan to play the thing. Okay, ain't no foundational Black Wakandans available to play in the role. So again, we had mixed discussions about it. I saw some side-by-side pictures, and that young man looked like Chadwick. He looks like Chadwick. And I want people who do have some complaints about this casting to take a step back, because a lot of people are thinking about this being like a superhero, right? It's a superhero. It is like he is this like warrior, which, which is fine, but the character is the young T'Challa grown up. So when you're thinking about, casting, ask yourself, and maybe this will help. The person that was picked, they have to play Lupita's son. Right? I know everybody's stuck on Chadwick and T'Challa and he Black Panther, but do you honestly think that Damson Idris could play Lupita's son? Sometimes she look younger than him. However, this other young man, I honestly think he can, because Lupita is going to, she's still here. She's playing his mother. She has to play his mother. That boy can play Lupita's son. So I think it's a great casting. And let me remind everybody, because a lot of people complaining again about Wakanda Forever in the direction. Regardless of what happened with Chadwick Boseman's untimely passing, the script per Ryan Coogler already included a son before Chadwick even passed away. The working title of that script was called Summer Break, and the storyline was going to be after the snap. T'Challa was going to arrive back in Wakanda and find out that he had a young son with Lupita. And during some point in time, whether they jump forward or not, the young son was going to participate in a ritual with his father, T'Challa, Chadwick Boseman's character, and Namor was going to show up, and T'Challa was going to have to fight Namor and be full on Black Panther with a baby on his hip. That was the story. So we were going to have to cast a young son anyway. And if that were the case, do you think Damson Idris could have been stood next to Chadwick Boseman and play his son? Please answer me that. Okay. Now, overall, I'm going to be up in the building. Baby, I'm in the building. Ryan Coogler could have cast the Kool-Aid Man, and I would have been up in that B. Okay? I'm in there. It don't matter, because the brand of Black Panther and Ryan Coogler is the draw. A lot of people are like, they're not gonna feel butts in the seats with this new guy. It don't matter. You could put a Cheeto in as Black Panther. I trust Ryan Coogler's judgment. There are a few creatives who I trust their vision. And I think I talked about this a long time ago on Black News. I trust Ryan Coogler's vision. I trust Hannah Nicole Jones's vision as a thought leader as it pertains to the Black community. I trust Ava DuVernay's vision. There are people that I trust their vision. Even if I don't agree, I trust that they thought it through and it's the best decision that they feel like they could make artistically and creatively and as a thought leader. Okay. So I don't care who it is. I'm going to support it and I'm going to see it. This will likely be shot. They probably, if we thinking about a true production timeline, and if the film is coming out on the back end of 2028, they'll probably start shooting sometime in 2027. Hopefully everybody returns. We don't know the storyline yet. People are, getting all in the weeds with Marvel, talking about how are they going to address the age jump, because in the last Wakanda Forever, the young T'Challa was maybe around 5 or 6 years old, and this new castmate, this new T'Challa, gonna be in his 20s. People predict. Maybe they could do anything. Y'all gotta remember, this is superheroes. People were online like, how are they gonna address it? Baby, people be flying in these movies. Okay, a purple bald-headed fat man snapped half of the population into another dimension, and they unsnapped them after 5 years, and they just went on with their life. They could figure out how to age somebody up. Okay, there's a flying ant in this realm. They could. I'm pretty confident they're gonna answer the questions. We also have to keep in mind, again, for the Marvel movie watchers and for the non-movie watchers. And I've had this conversation with a friend of mine because she is not a Marvel movie watcher, and she was forgetting that these movies are a part of this whole system. We still have Doomsday coming out this December. Secret Wars coming out December 2027. Black Panther coming out December 2028. So with the damage and everything that's going to be happening, multiverse, all of these things, child, there's going to be plenty of storyline and justification for being able to age up T'Challa into Black Panther. Don't worry. With that though, what are you guys' thoughts? Clearly, I'm excited. Oh, as you can see, I'm absolutely on the edge of my seat waiting for this. You can't tell me nothing. I'm going to be in there. I'm not one of those people who was upset that, about none of this. I'm seated. So let me know your thoughts. And as y'all know, I'm gonna come back here with updates as we have them. But in the meantime, I'm gonna watch some of Young David's work, and I'm going to anticipate eagerly what's to come next from Black Panther in the franchise. But let me know your thoughts about it. Hit me up. You can find me at Cornelia on social media. This next particular topic, boy, y'all was cooking online about this one. This was getting heated, and it's very niche. Okay. It is very niche. It is involving or surrounding the conversation about dress codes at HBCUs. Now, this all started recently because Tuskegee University announced a dress code that it sparked some discussion, right? It started some discussions, a chain reaction. Once this dropped, everybody had comments and whatnot. So I'm going to read an article from HBCU Game Day that discusses and addresses, and then we're going to get into all of it, okay? So per the article, the Tuskegee University dress code has remained a hot topic across the HBCU community since HBCU Game Day reported on the policy Thursday. Reader responses continued through the weekend and spilled into the new week. It says several readers connected the HBCU dress code to traditional HBCU expectations. They argued that students must learn how to present themselves in classrooms and professional environments. Critics, it says the sharpest criticism focused on whether every student can afford a larger professional wardrobe. Quote, my issue is that the dress code is unrealistic and isn't considering the financial ability of the students there. Business professional daily, are they funding the attire for the students? Now, I don't know if it's daily because I'm just basing it off of what Hampton was, but that's the gist of it. Now, let me see if I can find the dress code because that'll get into it. Okay, what I was able to find so far, it says the new dress code prohibits Tuskegee University students from wearing bedroom slippers, bonnets, and do-rags in classrooms and cafeterias. And they also pointed out how there was also a dress code for the 2026 spring graduation, which read, all degree candidates should dress in a manner appropriated for the dignity and solemnity. Y'all know I can't say certain words, y'all. Y'all might as well put me on one of them social media clips with the kids that can't read. But basically, all degree candidates must wear academia regalia, caps and gowns. They should wear black shoes and clothing to harmonize with academia regalia. Sneakers, fuzzy slippers, flip-flops, Crocs of any kind are not allowed. That's for commencement. But it sounds like the dress code limits certain attire for classrooms and cafeterias, specifically wearing bedroom slippers, bonnets, and do-rags. So, what is really happening with all of this? Now, let me start by saying, I am a graduate of Hampton University. Our motto is the standard of excellence. My home by the sea. We had a dress code, a curfew. Baby, it was strict down them parts. During my tenure at the school, we had a dean so strict, we didn't even really get to party and kick it on campus. A lot of the stuff that like old Hampton grads used to talk about when I got there, baby, them days was long gone because Dean McMorris and them wasn't having it. However, I did not mind the dress code. Was it crazy at some points? Sure. But looking at some of the attire that I see on campuses across the country now, hey, we needed it. Hey, man, it. Whew. Now, I give one example that was crazy. This, and again, we were strict. Hampton's a private school. And this was peak Hampton. I'm talking about when I got to school, I was like, I'm at school with the Huxtable kids. There was kids from every different class background, but it was very diverse. But one girl almost got kicked out of school my freshman or sophomore year for wearing leggings in the calf. And I'm talking about leggings. She had a t-shirt, maybe a crop top. It wasn't super crop like belly wasn't out, but baby, she had on leggings and almost got booted out by 5. Out by 5 is a phrase that we used to use at Hampton. You get kicked out, baby, they will tell you you had to pack up, be out by 5 p.m. Bye-bye. People also, while I'm thinking about it, this is a side note, like to point to how our dress code was a little too rigid and people were calling it anti-black and white leaning because the School of Business, and I don't know if this is still the case. It's been many years since I was even tapped into what the dress code was. But you couldn't have cornrows and do-rags, not do-rag, cornrows and locks if you were a student in the School of Business. And people were calling that out. And I just want to point this out, because I think this is worth noting. While it sounds crazy for that to be the case, especially at an institution rooted in blackness, black culture, and black history, is HBCU, Historically Black College University. You got to remember, during a certain period of time, maybe up until, I'm going to be generous when I say this, I'm going to say the back end of the 2010s, you could not work in certain industries as a black person if you had, or white, if you did not have a clean shaven face or if you had natural hair. I worked on Wall Street in HR from 2005 to 2010. They would walk your ass off the job if you came up in there with cornrows, a beard, even a goatee was off limits. Locks, all of that. You couldn't, because certain industries, a lot of industries that recruited at the business school at Hampton University and some other HBCUs, you could not literally get a job. So while the dress code was rigid, I understand the thought process because it mirrored industries that they were striving to be in. Was it right? No. Did it make sense for the time? Yes. Especially if you know you black and you want to work on Wall Street, you can't have locks. They're not gonna hire you. And if you show up with braids, you getting fired. Period. So okay, that's in my sidebar. But I think I'm just confused about all of this because, and maybe it is because I went to Hampton, or maybe it's because I wasn't really dressing crazy or doing like stuff in high school. I don't see anything wrong with not being able to wear your bonnet, slippers, and pajamas to class. Like, I think I'm on that side of, why are we fighting so hard to be able to wear pajamas? Like, I think I'm just really not understanding. I didn't grow up with, like, I didn't have to be dressed up all the time, right? I grew up in Flint in the 90s. People were stylish. I grew up in the tomboy era. I grew up in the flare jeans and the baby tees and all of that. Also, my high school was like multicultural. It wasn't the fashionista school in Flint. There were other schools like that, but also we still looked cute. And a lot of times I was wearing my cheerleading outfit because we had to wear them to school on game days, which was 2 times a week during basketball season, 1 time during football season. But I can't think of anybody, even like the alt kids, the grunge kids, even the kids from who were not doing well financially, who families were struggling, they were never coming to school with no pajamas on. Like, I just don't remember that. If you're from Flint and you went to Central, let me know. We ain't have kids showing up in pajamas. Sure, maybe some kids maybe a little bit more bummy than others, right? That's the circumstance. But people at least did not wear their house shoes. So I think for me, I'm just really, I kind of, and I was asking us on social media to see if I can understand what was that sharp transition from going from high school and just having to wear regular clothes to school, then to college where you like, fuck it, I'm just gonna put on, I'm just roll straight out of bed and go to class. How did that happen? Like, I don't understand. Okay. But one thing that's also very interesting about all these conversations, a lot of people have been saying that these dress codes, these respectability politics, it is rooted in anti-blackness, right? A lot of those terms are thrown out. Anti-black, politics were the two that were floating around. Y'all, when did dressing well or being presentable become associated with being white? Right? Like, when did looking just put together become adopted or associated with whiteness? And when did bonnets, do rags become considered blackness and black culture? I know it can be in certain ways, right? We see street style with do rags, Allen Iverson, that whole era, yeah. But people directly correlating not agreeing with wearing pajamas and slippers and house shoes and stuff to class with being anti-black. I just don't really understand that. I also don't buy the comments that it's respectability politics, because a lot of people say these are HBCUs and there's a history of it, and when you think about the founders of these colleges and the people who walk the halls, we come from a really deep and rich legacy. You see pictures from people from back in the day, they were dressed looking good, hair froze, picked out. Hell, even the Black Panthers had a dress code. Let's keep it a bug. People were saying, like, comparing all of this, and how do we get see that rich history of our people, and then have to have this sharp turn to where we're throwing all of that out the window and now associating just putting on some clothes in the morning with being anti-black. Like, I just don't it's just so interesting and so confusing for me. So let me look up, because this is really something that I be trying not to do. But I'm gonna look up terms, because one thing we get caught up in, we look at a lot, we throw a lot of stuff out there, and people don't know what it means. So let's start with anti-black, right? Anti-black can be considered being opposed to, hostile towards, or deeply prejudiced against black people. It is a specific form of racism that involves the dehumanization and marginalization and devaluing of black individuals and their culture. Core characteristics: treating black people as less than human or denying their basic dignity. Systemic bias, cultural devaluation, mocking or erasing black speech styles, hair, and history, while sometimes still copying parts of black culture. So people were saying it is anti-black to tell people to want to tell people to dress better, is respectability politics. Let's look up respectability politics while we at it. It is a strategy where marginalized groups conform to dominant cultural standards, such as specific modes of dress, speech, or behavior, to gain social acceptance, safety, and rights. Coined by historian Evelyn Brooks Higginbotham in 1993. It attempts to counter negative stereotypes, but often blames individuals within the group for systemic injustices. Again, let me read the top. It is a strategy where marginalized groups conform to dominant cultural standards, such as specific modes of dress, speech, or behavior, respectability politics. Based on this definition, dressing, I will say appropriately, but just making sure yourself is put together is not respectability politics, because again, no other culture has the market on specific modes of dress, speech, or behavior. Wanting to look cute or even just not walk around in your bedclothes is not trying to conform to other demographics. So I just, again, peculiar. I'm also wondering, and I'm really interested in The shifting of perception from generation to generation, because somebody brought this point up, and I'm going to, in a minute, I'm going to read some very relatable or interesting thread posts that I saw that I saved. But one person was saying they wonder if all of this shift in perception is associated with like baddie culture and social media, and how that has in a way eroded our standards, our self standards, and gotten us where we are today. But let me read some of these because baby, y'all was cooking. Okay, I had to screenshot a lot of this because it was very relatable. Okay, I'll start with this one. It said, I have a question, genuine question. When did wearing bonnets and pajamas outside become black culture? I asked because the thought never crossed my mind to associate wearing these things with being pro-black or the rejection of these being publicly acceptable being white centered. Another one. As a third generation HBCU alum, Spelman, and PWI alum at one of the largest universities in the country, UT Austin, it's reductive to say dressing well is simply for the white gaze. Black folks have been the style standard. Dressing up, especially for convocation and events, has been an HBCU tradition for over a century. On the whole, I have never been impressed by the attire of my white classmates or colleagues, and I work for top Fortune 50 companies. Dressing up is not dressing white. Another one. I'm so disturbed by this whole Tuskegee bonnet, do-rag, college dress code conversation because why are we equating professional dress, appropriate appearance with whiteness? And then there was more about that. We said there was one comment that addressed the same thing, but it said, this new generation seems to know nothing about their history, tribal wear, 50s, 60s, chic era, the Harlem Renaissance era, even during the Great Depression. We never look like we just rolled out of the bed. It's actually anti-black to think that wearing bonnets and do-rags to class is our culture. Another one. My closing thoughts for the night. This is the difference between respectability, politics, and standards. It's insulting to us as Black people to suggest that when we set standards, it is always for the white gaze. Sometimes it's just us setting standards for the environment in which we live, learn, teach, work, do business. You may not like the particular standard, but that doesn't make it white coded. Give us the respect of agency. And here's the comment about what they mentioned, the baddie culture. It said, to wrap this up, this was never actually about a bonnet. It's about a generational divide between people who were raised with home training, pride, and situational awareness versus a generation raised by algorithms and baddie culture that mistakes low effort for liberation when your entire worldview is shaped by viral trends and degeneracy on the internet. Having a baseline of self-respect in public spaces feels like oppression. We can value comfort without abandoning how we show up in the world. Hold yourselves to higher standards because the internet isn't going to raise you. All very interesting points. Let me say this too, because again, a lot of times people like to chime in on topics, and I know when it's involving Black people, everybody feel like they're a part. But it's a lot of people who didn't go to HBCUs, who don't know anybody that went to HBCUs, who are a part of this discussion, who you can tell have some resentment for HBCUs, people who went to HBCUs, or just for the fact that they weren't able to attend an HBCU. I'm not saying that to be shady at all. I'm saying that to offer some context about entering in this discussion. If you are not able or willing to have a thoughtful and balanced discussion, or if your points are rooted in, yes, I knew that's why I ain't going to no HBCU because I knew it was elite. We don't want to hear that. HBCUs graduate the highest number of Black doctors, attorneys, etc. If it weren't for HBCUs, a large number of Black people would not have the ability to go to college. Some of your idols went to HBCUs. There is a deep, deep legacy within all of these institutions. Right now, I believe there are about 105 active HBCUs out here, all with different types of campuses, all with different policies, all with different cultures. You're going to get something at one college that you ain't going to get at the other. And if your desire is to go to HBCU and there's a dress code and you feel like it hinders you, baby, pick another. Go pick one of the other 104. But throughout the history of all of those comes a people whose families starting back in the late 1800s when the first HBCUs were founded, when Cheney was first founded, the first HBCU, up until now, we had some of the most prolific thought leaders, some of the smartest, the savviest, the jazziest people within the Black community on these campuses. So even with the idea and the thought of I'm paying all of this money to go here and I learn better when I'm comfortable and I feel like ain't nothing wrong with wearing a bonnet or pajamas or like slippers or house shoes or whatnot, still keep it in mind in the back of your mind that you have the privilege to walk the same halls, to grace the same campus as Martin Luther King Jr., as Booker T. Washington, as recent as Taraji P. Henson, Ruth E. Carter, to just name just a couple. Thurgood Marshall, Kamala Harris. Not to say that that should change your perception, but I think people need to reframe their mindset to know it is an honor and a privilege to go to a college that was founded for our people that is still open because they trying to shut these colleges down. It is an honor and a privilege, and it is an elite institution. I feel like a lot of people be trying to discredit HBCUs. That's why they feel like they can do whatever they want and show up however they want because it's just HBCU. No, baby, these the best and the brightest. Put some pants on. I just don't understand. And again, maybe that's just me being sounding like an old person and me not understanding, but I don't care what they do at a PWI. I don't care that they show up and smell like liquor because they was out partying the night before and they roll up in there with their pajamas on and and bonnets. I don't care what happens um at within those classrooms. There is no standard for Black people at PWIs. They don't have no expectation for us. And based on a lot of people's stories that went to PWIs, baby, y'all be having it be hardship city dealing with whatever be going on them campuses. So I don't personally ever want to entertain comparisons about what people be doing at PWIs versus what we should be able to do at HBCUs. They get to do it at PWI and there's stuff and nobody cares. I don't give a shit. I don't care. I do not care. Thurgood Marshall ain't go there. He ain't go there. Like, what do you want? Martin Luther King Jr. didn't go there. He went to Morehouse. You understand what I'm saying? You understand? You understand what I'm saying? Okay. That's the point that I'm trying to make. But what do y'all think? What do y'all think? Because, baby, they still talking about it, fussing and cussing. And I've been tuned in, okay, locked in. Because this is, this means something to me. I had a dress code. I ain't mind. I didn't come to Hampton with a lot of money. My parents paid for me to college, and baby, that's all they could pay for. They wasn't giving me no extra spending money. And based on the style of dress that I had growing up in Flint versus what the style was when I got to Hampton, I was out of my depth. But you know what? I always made sure that I did. I made sure that my clothes that I had were cute. They were ironed, clean. My hair was done. I made sure my Air Max was crispy than a mug. Not to say that that is what was required, but I already came with an expectation for myself. And you ain't about to out cue me. I ain't about to show up in no pajamas. What? For what? Baby, get out of here. So that's just me though. Let me know what your thoughts about it are. Hey, did you go to the PWI and get to go to school with your pajamas on? And also, if you did go to school with your pajamas, are they the same pajamas? Like, did you get out of bed, go to school with your pajamas on, and get back in the bed with your outside pajamas? Or did you switch? Let me know. You can find me at Cornelia on social media. On On this week's episode of Black News, we talked about the latest Black Panther 3 announcements, which includes a release date and a new cast member, specifically the young man that's going to be playing T'Challa. We also talked about an online debate that's been happening all week regarding dress codes at HBCUs. Hit me up. Let me know your thoughts about all of these topics, some or none, and I'll check back with you guys next time. That's it for this week's episode of Black News, y'all. Thanks again for supporting the podcast by sharing, liking, subscribing, and rating 5 stars on your favorite podcast app. To find more information about me, you can check me out at Canelia on social media, as well as on my website, which is canelia.com. And as always, thanks for supporting, and I'll be back next week with new topics and a new episode.